Today I'm going to do a video to show you how to set up Google Maps in your React Native app. I'm going to cover a few different topics. I'm going to cover how to create the map. I'm going to show how to set up markers, how to create a callout. I'm going to show you how to create different shapes for your map. And I'm going to show you how to create multiple markers. Today I'm just going to show you how to actually put stuff on the map. And in part 2, I'll show you how to edit things on the map and do a little bit more UI work with your markers. If we go to the documentation here, you can see that there's a lot of installation instructions for React Native Maps. For me, the hardest part of using this library is the setup part of it. The first time I set up React Native Maps, it took me a very long time, but once you do it one time, it gets easier after that. So let's look at the documentation. First, you do install React Native Maps. So I've already done all this, but I'm going to walk you through some of the pain points. I'm using 0.61, so I'm skipping all of this here. So if you're not using 0.6 or higher, you need to follow these instructions. But I'm going to skip past these for now and go to 0.6 and higher. So I did all this already, pod install, and you need to put your Google API key here. So if we go back to the app here, in the iOS folder, and the delegate, I've added this line here. So this is the API key. This will no longer be valid after this video goes up, so don't bother trying to use the same key. And you should also add the maps import here. So that's all you need to do for the app delegate.m. And then let's go back to the docs here. So for 0.6 and higher, that's all you need to do for this section. You can skip A and B here. And then for your pod, you need to add these lines here. So if you go back to my code and look at the pod file, then you can see that I've added these here. And then you go into your iOS folder and you do a pod install. Pretty basic stuff so far. For iOS, it's pretty easy. So for Android, it's a little bit more work. So you can skip this for 0.59 and lower, this too. So for Android, you need to add these here, these 3 lines. So in my build file for Android, let's go down here. So I've added these lines here. You need to Google these and see which ones are the most current. So let's go back. Keep in mind that this is saying if you're using project-wide properties. So I definitely recommend doing it this way. So you need to add the API key to your Android manifest. I've already done that here too, so you can see up here, API key. This is the standard string to use for your name, and then you just add your API value here. So I'm hard coding all of my API values, but normally you would want to put that in a separate file, so it's not actually packaged with your app. Same for iOS too. So back in the docs here, you don't need to do this for 0.6 and higher, which is nice, so just skip this part. Some other things that you need to add is you need to go to your settings and include the React Native Maps here and the project. So it'll be node modules, React Native Maps, lib, Android. So these lines I kind of skipped over when I first set up React Native Maps. I was getting errors for a while and I didn't really know why, so don't forget these lines here. You can see these lines are, let's actually just search for settings. Yeah, you can see these lines are here. So don't forget this part for Android settings. Okay, so just make sure that you follow the docs here. So let's go back to the actual React Native Maps documentation here. And you'll see that down here, there's a few different components that are included in the component API. We're going to focus on MapView, marker, callout, Polygon / polyline, and circle. Those will be the main ones that we focus on. So let's look at the docs here. You just import maps and you set the initial region. So this initial region will be what will be shown on the maps when it first loads. I'm going to show you how to set up the project in your Google console if you don't know how to do that already. So in order to set up maps in Google, you need to actually do a few things, which are kind of a pain, but you have to do it only one time. After you do it the first time, it's pretty easy. So the first thing you need to do is, let's go here. And it says, before you can start using Google Maps, you must sign up and create a billing account. So I've already done that part. I'm not going to show you my billing info, but you would do that here. So after that, you just create a new project. You just go up here, new project, and walk through the steps. It's pretty easy. And then after that, you go to your project and you go to library, and you need to look at the Maps SDK for Android and Maps SDK for iOS. And for Android, you need to enable the SDK. That's the first step. And you do the same for the Maps SDK for iOS. So credentials is where you would actually set up your restrictions for your different API keys. So if we go to Android, for example, you can apply restrictions. I'm restricting this to Maps SDK for Android. So this API key only applies to that SDK. If you're going to restrict it to Android apps, then you need to provide your package name and your SHA-1 certificate. It tells you right here how to actually generate your SHA-1 for Mac and Windows. It's pretty easy, so make sure that your package name is correct if you're doing it this way. So that's about it for that. And let's go back to the iOS one. And if we go here, you can restrict by your bundle. So here I'm restricting by the name of this bundle here. So I'm also restricting the key to the Maps SDK for iOS. So this API key can only be used for iOS Maps SDK. Okay, I recommend creating 2 different keys for Android and iOS. And if you're doing web, create a different one for the web. Okay, so let's go back to the documentation here for Maps. And as you can see here, there's a few different components for the Maps SDK or the Maps library. We have MapView, Marker, Callout, Polygon, Polyline, Circle. So these first 6 are the ones that I'm going to focus on in this video. The last 3 are not used as often. So let's go back to our code here. And this app that I have right here is just from the master branch and the CWC React Native repo. So if we go to Playground, it just says hello text. So that's all we have in this app so far. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our Playground, and I've also created a state for this video. I created an array of coordinates. So we have name, latitude, longitude. So these will be used for the markers in the map. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is import the maps. So let's go to the docs real quick. And I'm just gonna actually just copy and paste this. So let's copy and paste this. And then down here in the render function, I'm going to actually return a map view. And we need to actually provide a provider. So the provider in our case will be Google Maps for both Android and iOS. So it's actually a named argument here. So we're gonna put in provider Google. Then copy and paste that in here. And then we need to create a region. So the region is the actual region that you'll see on the map when it first loads. We pass in an object, and the object takes in a latitude and longitude. So for the latitude and longitude, I already know that I'm gonna place a marker in San Francisco. So I'm gonna say 37 point, I already have this in my notes. So 37.8825, and longitude will be -122.4324. Okay, and the other 2 arguments are going to be required also. So latitude delta will be 0.09, and longitude delta will be 0.035. And then we close our map view here. So you might be wondering what this latitude and longitude delta is. So it's basically a way for the app to compute how much space it should show on the screen. It only uses one of these values based on which one is larger. So it does the ratio of latitude to height, and it does a ratio of longitude to width. So I won't get into too much of that now, but you can play around with these values and you can see how it changes the amount of the map that it shows on the screen. Okay, so let's save this. I'm gonna save and let's reload. And let's go to Playground. And as you can see, nothing is here. And that is because we need to specify at least a height for our map. So our map is here, but it doesn't take up any space. Let's actually provide a style here. So we're gonna do style equals styles.map, we'll call it. So let's go down here to our styles and we're gonna put in a map and we're gonna add height. And the height will take up the entire screen. So we're gonna say 100% and save. Okay, and now you can see that we have a map of San Francisco here. So if you can get this far, then you've done the hardest parts already. So everything before this is a lot harder than what comes after this. Okay, let's get rid of this here. And we don't need the container anymore. So now let's go back to our docs here. And we've done MapView. So now let's do marker. For that, we need to actually add the marker to this. So it's a named component. So we have marker. And now we create the marker inside of the map view. So we can do marker. So we can provide a few different props here. We need to provide a coordinate. So the coordinate will have a latitude and a longitude. Okay, and we're going to add a, let's just copy and paste something from up here. So let's do this and this one. Okay, and let's close our, actually we need to add the title too. So we need to add a, oops, this should be longitude. Longitude. We need to add a title. So our title will show up when we click the marker. So title will be San Francisco, and let's close our marker. Okay, let's move this down just a little bit. So let's do 8 and let's do something like 4 here. Okay, I'm gonna edit this a little bit and do something like 7, 8, just so it's not the same as these coordinates here. So save. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now we have our marker. If we click on it, then we see San Francisco. Okay, pretty easy so far. So let's go to our documentation here. So now we will do a callout. So a callout is what this is. So this is a callout. To make a custom callout, we will put a callout inside of the marker. First, we need to add our callout here. So callout. And we'll create our callout component here. So we'll do callout. We'll just close it. And then you'll add whatever components you want to show. Text. An interesting city. So let's get rid of that. And now we will save. And now if we click on this, you'll see an interesting city. So this overrides anything in the marker here that will set something inside of the callout, the default callout. So that's a really cool thing to have with your marker. You can have any type of component that you want in here. You can have like lists, you can have images. We're actually gonna put an image in here too. So for this app, I added a sushi image here. You can see it here, just a small icon. So let's go to our callout, and above the text here, we'll put in an image, and let's add the image up here. Image. Okay, and for the image will have a source. And for the source, we will require, and then we'll point to the path of the image. So image, and then we'll do sushi.png, and that's it. So let's save. And now if we click on this, you'll see that we have our sushi image and we have our text. You can make some really interesting UI with this if you want to. So for our marker here, what if we want the marker to be a different image and just not the callout? So for that, it's pretty easy. Instead of our marker here, we can actually add an image. So I'm gonna add the same image here. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this here. And now let's reload. And now our marker is the picture of the sushi. So if we click this, you can see we have our sushi here too with an interesting city. So far, everything has been pretty easy and straightforward. Let's go back to the docs here. We did MapView, marker, callout. So something that you see in a lot of different apps like Uber, for example, is you might see polygons and circles in your app that kind of encompass a certain area. The polygon is a really interesting component. So let's go to the Polygon docs here. And you can see it takes in a lot of different props here. Most of these are just for styling purposes. So we'll focus on the coordinates and maybe the stroke here. So let's go to the code and we will add a polygon. So let's go above our marker here. And I'm gonna create a polygon. Let's get that from here, polygon. I'm gonna put this in a different line. So it takes in coordinates. So for the coordinates, it's an array of lat longs here, as you can see. So that's why I created this state object here. So for the coordinates, we're just gonna pass in the state object. So we're just gonna say this dot state dot coordinates. Pretty simple. So let's save. And as you can see, it created a polygon around that area with these coordinates. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, sorry, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't really need the last one in this case. Like if we take this one out, then we still get the same shape here. That's something to keep in mind. You can have multiple polygons that intersect, and you can do some crazy things with this if you want to. So let's go back down to our polygon and we can add some more styling to this if you want to. I'm going to change the fill color. So the fill color is a prop here. You can just add in a RGBA color. So you put the brackets here and then you'll do RGBA and then you can set the values here. I'm just gonna do something round for these. 100, 200, 200, some more blue-green. And I'm gonna add in a opacity to make it very light. Let's do 0.3. Close that and save. Let's play around with these a bit. And now as you can see, it's a bit different. Okay, you can also play around with things like the stroke color, stroke width. So stroke width, you can set it to like 3 or something. And now it has a thicker stroke here. Oh, so one more thing before I go any further. You can make the marker draggable by putting the draggable prop here. So you can say draggable, and now we can save. And now if you long press on the marker, you can drag it around like so. We will talk about that stuff more in the next video. I'm gonna save this again and remove this. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is the circle. But yeah, so I'm skipping the polyline because the polyline is the same thing as the polygon, it's just not filled in. I like polygon more because I like the shaded area. Anyways, now let's go to the circle. So the circle is very similar. You have a lot of the same styling props here, but now you have to set the center lat long and you set the radius. So let's go back to our app and let's add in a circle and we will add our circle here. Okay, and for the circle, you need to put in a center. So the center, I'm going to add in a, I don't know, something similar to up here. I'm gonna just copy and paste this here. Okay, and now you need to set a radius. So for the radius, it's in meters, so it has to be a pretty high number for you to actually see it on the map. So I'm gonna set something like 1000, and let's save. And now you can see we have a circle here. Okay, and now we can add in a fill color for this too. So I'm gonna say 0.5 for the opacity. And I'm gonna say 200, maybe 300, save. And now you can see we have a circle here. Okay, so let's go back to our documentation. So yeah, we've done all 6, but there's a few things I want to do before I finish this video. I want to go to the callout, and now I want to actually have an event on here. Let's go to the docs here. Most of the components have different events that you can invoke for your map. So for this one, we have onPress. So let's go to the code here, say onPress, and I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to call it this.show welcome message. And now we're going to create our function up here. So let's create it here, and I'm going to create show welcome message. Oops, welcome message. Okay, it's going to be an arrow function, and I'm going to create an alert. So I'm going to say alert dot alert, and we're going to have our title be welcome to San Francisco. For the message here, I'm going to say the food is amazing, which it is. And now we're going to have our buttons here, which is an array. And for the first one, I'm going to say text will be cancel. And then you can have your onPress here if you want to. I'm just going to skip over that for now. Cancel. And we'll create a second one here and just have it be okay. Okay, so let's save. Oops. Okay, and now for the custom callout that we have here, let's press this. And now you can see our alert here with our message. So you can do a lot of cool things with the events. You can navigate to different pages, etc. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is show you how to create multiple markers. So we have our marker array up here. So let's say we want to show all these markers at the same time when the map first loads. Let's go down here to our marker component. And below this, I'm going to have a loop here, or a map. So I want to first do brackets, and then you do this dot state dot coordinates. So here I'm going to map through the array. So we're going to do map. And then the object will be, I'm just going to call it marker. And then arrow function, and then we'll have our code here. Okay, and the first thing we'll do is we'll create a marker component. So marker, okay. And we will create the key because it'll give you a warning if you don't do this. So we'll just have the key be the name because it's unique in our case. So equals marker.name, oops, marker.name. And then we need to add the coordinate. So for the coordinate, in this case, it'll be marker dot, oops, first we need to add the name of it. So it'll be latitude, and then we'll set it to marker dot latitude, and then we have longitude, and then that'll be set to marker dot longitude. Okay, and then we create a title. The title, I'm going to set it to the name. So we'll have marker dot name. And now I'm going to create a callout for this too. I'm just going to copy and paste this here to save some time. So the callout will be in here. Not have a onPress for this. And the image source will be the same, but I'm going to actually make this a bit smaller. So I'm going to create a style here. I'm just going to put it inside of the image. I'm just going to say the width is 50 and the height is, let's go 50 also. Okay. Put this on a different line. Okay, so we have our image here inside of this. Let's look at our map. So now we have our 5 different markers here. Now if we click on these markers, let's get rid of this here. Remember I said our callout is overriding our title here. So if we want to see our marker name, we can actually put it as a text inside of here. So we can say text, and we can say marker.name. And we can get rid of the title here, save. And now if we click our markers, you can see the name is here. So 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I think I'm going to call this the end of the video now, and we're just going to finish on this. And in part 2, we will focus on editing the map more and moving things around and working with events more with React Native maps. So yeah, I hope this helps you get started with maps. It's really fun and you can do a lot of cool things with it. Yeah, stay tuned for part 2 and happy coding. Bye.